I was still drunk, and texted him, and I was like, this is my 800th time saying, I think I'm going to quit drinking.
Welcome to the Recovery Vow Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. Today's episode is brought to you by Communigraphics, the nonprofit desk, Corbin Jones State Farm, and a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Vow Podcast. I am so glad to have Jordan and Jake.
Whatever rolls off your tongue, either one.
We're going to go with Jake.
That's perfect.
So I'm so glad to have Jordan and Jake. You guys aren't twins, but you're best friends.
Best friends, yes. 15 years strong.
15 years strong.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you guys are in recovery. You're both best friends.
Yes.
And Jordan Shelton,
Yes.
newly married.
Yes.
Married in November.
Right. Oh, Clower now.
Clower.
Yes.
Clower.
Yeah, Shelton was the maiden. I'm confused still a little myself too.
Jordan Clower.
Yes.
I found you on TikTok.
Mhm.
First of all, let's talk about how hilarious you are on your
you.
TikTok.
Well, thank you.
It takes that kind of personality to talk about recovery
Mhm.
in this new way, so you don't shy away. You don't shy away
Right.
from anything.
No, not at all.
I've heard your language. I've
Yeah.
seen your fingers.
Okay, good. That's yeah.
Yeah, so you're fine here, but I think what you're doing is incredible. So walk me
Well,
through
thank
what got you to where you are. Like, what was your addiction? Let's talk about that for a minute, and then we'll dive into what got you to where you are.
Perfect. So yeah, I started drinking right out of high school. Up until that point, I made it almost like a big deal that I would never drink. My father is an alcoholic, or he was an alcoholic all throughout his life. And so growing up, my mom always kind of made sure to reiterate, like, hey, this is hereditary. If you
Really,
drink,
she pushed it even then because
Mhm. Oh,
she
yeah.
knew your dad was a.
Yeah. He had a hard time. He was just of course, like every addict, like the most hilarious, funny, artistic, crazy person. But then the other side was just as big.
Yeah.
The bad stuff was just as big as the good stuff. And so it was hard for him to find a space and a reason for recovery, I think. So they split up, but growing up, I knew that I probably might have had the addictive gene in me.
Generational.
Yeah. So that was always like a thing growing up, and through high school, I always thought, I can't be an alcoholic. And then
You can't? Is that what you're already telling yourself?
yeah, I was thinking I can't. I guess maybe somewhere I knew that it would happen. And so in high school, I was always kind of like, no, I can't. I hung out with people who partied, but I never did myself. And I was always confident in that. And then once we went to college, it was kind of like, oh, who cares? It's just fun. It wasn't so serious because we weren't literal children.
Right.
We're kind of moving into this adult space. And so
Did you feel like in college, like you would potentially probably just grow out of it? Like you were just doing it because that's what college kids do?
yes, exactly. I thought, it was normal.
Yeah.
It was everybody parties, everybody goes out. But I was always the one who was blacked out while everyone else was drunk. Or I was always the one who was like pushing drinking during the day or starting earlier every day and thinking like, oh, who cares? Like this
Right.
is the time in life that you're supposed to do that.
Right.
And not realizing that it became a habit that was just a huge mess.
Tell me, like, how bad did it get? And was like college the worst?
So no, college was not the worst. Actually, I would say like around the pandemic. What do you think?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think from college, I didn't know you. Oh well, yeah.
Like when we were working at the
we were working
yeah,
at the same.
we worked at-
It progressively, I think, just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic really, obviously, didn't help. But it just it was kind of just so
a part of our every
lives
day.
that like I didn't guess I realized how bad she had gotten. Because obviously I care enough.
So y'all were like drinking buddies?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
Yes,
but-
I've never been a huge drinker. Like that wasn't like, so yeah, I would drink with her, but like, I mean,
I'm having 3 to his 1.
anybody
Gotcha.
can outdrink me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just am
So
never
y'all were
been-
just getting smashed at the tanning salon?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, oh,
absolutely.
yeah,
we
for
had
sure.
actually it was a great time at the time. Like, we were having a
And,
great
like,
time.
hey, let's go, take turns on the computer back and forth to the break room. Like,
Gotcha.
oh, let's go
just
down.
talking crazy to people. You know what I mean? Just okay, girl, what do you think? Like this motion, it's so bad. Just caricatures of humans working. You
And
know.
it didn't help that both the tanning salons that we worked at were attached to like a gas station where you could just
Go get a tall
little wine,
boy.
a tall boy,
Yeah.
And
Toss
just
a few
power-
bags.
What were you drinking? Beer?
Truly's champagne. Love a good cheap champagne.
Which it doesn't sound like, that hard, like, hard liquor is hard liquor, but no, this girl.
I was putting him back.
You get wherever you get your hands on.
Right.
I mean, I worked at Subway for a little bit and I got fired for drinking. Remember Boone's Farm? It's like I was drinking Boone's Farm in the cooler, and they're like, gotta go.
Well, yeah. And then it's a low stakes job. So we're like, well, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Who cares? Everyone who comes in here is also on drugs.
Right.
Everyone's a
It's
stripper
Subway.
or whatever. Like, we're all
true.
just having a good time. They understood. It was almost like, being stuck in that environment, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we worked there for a long time, 8 years, 7, 8 years. I mean, we started in high school, and I mean, it carried us through college and after. So
just got comfortable. And
money wise, it was a pretty good job for our age. But
it
we
really
definitely
was.
didn't take anything
That's
seriously
awesome.
at all.
Yeah, it was. So that was. I mean, I guess at that point we didn't feel like, oh, there's a problem because we were making money, we were going out,
Passing
we were 22. School. Yeah, exactly. Like I struggle a little bit more with school, but he was straight A's no matter what we were doing. And but then during the pandemic, he's a flight attendant.
Yeah.
I was working from home, and so we were both at home all day. We're neighbors. We lived 2 minutes from each other.
And our habit was to, as soon as we woke up, text each other. No matter, it was usually 7, 8 o'clock. And we would spend all day together. I'd go to her house, she'd go to my house.
Yeah, am I going to you? Or are you coming to me?
Yeah, we drink or smoke all day, like, just chill.
Gotcha.
Like,
Yeah.
So do you feel like pandemic had a lot to do with it? Like,
Oh yeah, I think
to
being
just
home,
take you to the next level?
Yes, absolutely. Like
For yours, yes. Mine, no. But
yeah, for
yours,
you,
yes.
no, but you were he was he's a flight attendant, so he was furloughed for several months.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then I was working from home at a job that I really didn't care about.
Yeah.
So, they were paying me to jiggle my mouse, and once the pandemic hit, you could get gallons of frozen margaritas delivered to my apartment, and I think that changed everything. After you could get alcohol delivered to your home
Front door.
Yeah.
front door, I was like, oh,
I feel like I've talked to a lot of people.
Why would I
that
leave?
said that the pandemic amplified their addiction.
yeah,
For
absolutely. It was
sure. I
already
mean, there's
there.
nothing else to,
Right.
at
Yeah.
the time, there's nothing else to do.
And they're depressed because they can't
Yeah.
For sure.
couldn't go
yeah.
anywhere.
And then, as she said, the margarita, I mean, with a push of a button, you can get whatever you want to your door. And
Cigarettes,
Yes.
whatever you want.
Literally
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
So take me through, like, you finished college, you did this tanning salon thing, you guys became best friends, but you were also drug buddies or drink buddies or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What was, Jordan, how did you know that you were getting toward, like, did you ever make it to a rock bottom?
I think I did. I think there was a point I was just drinking so much all of the time, and I was so hateful to him, and like
She mean.
I would almost use him because I knew he wouldn't leave. I knew he would never stop being my friend or something.
Right.
So I would just
At this point, we're family at this
Yeah.
point. It's friendship,
truly
no, actual family.
platonic life partners,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say. Like, I think we've done this before, like in
Okay.
another.
Yeah.
I think we've been friends before, or mother and son, or some
I mean,
weird brother and
there's
sister.
just
like,
literally nothing that-
Yeah, there's no way this is the first time we've
We've seen each
gone
other
through this
at
together.
each other's worst, and
Okay.
Yeah.
we've been each other's inhibitors or
Yes,
whatnot.
like each
and
other's
now we're-
instigators, each
Yeah.
other's. I mean, so yeah, the I guess my like rock bottom was I was living with a boyfriend at this point, and he kind of like Jake had just let everything slide, and then it got to a point where he was like, I don't care to do this anymore. I'm gonna call Jake. I'm gonna call your mom. Threatening to call my people on me.
This was the boyfriend.
Yeah, this was the boyfriend, and so
He
when
recognized you had an issue.
Oh yeah, and when he kind of called it out, I thought, oh, you've put up with all this other stuff, cheating, lying, running around, doing whatever the hell I wanted to do. When the drinking was like where he drew the line, I was
Do you
like,
think it was because he had something like that going on in his family and it just meant more to him?
I think he was a little depressed himself. We had a toxic relationship. He would just play video games all day, and he would come over I was
and drink all day.
He's a flight attendant. I was his travel companion. So he's got a layover in Florida. I'll see you there. And then we'll go do
Whatever you want to
who
do.
and whatever, wherever. Yeah.
Oh, I see you throw the who in there too.
I mean,
yes, 'cause
it
that's
was so reckless, and that's just so
Yeah.
far from where I like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. The promiscuity was.
I-
It was like.
I think that was towards the rock bottom where you.
Yeah,
May I say
Jake,
the
yes,
two.
you can, yeah.
Well, my flight companion, she had two serious boyfriends.
I had two serious, yes.
And so
literally
in the sense of I love
Jordan.
her,
yeah, I mean, yes, and like I'm saying it with a smile because so that I don't kill myself later or sob about it right here. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a disgusting, like such a gross, egotistical, selfish, repulsive place to be. And I would do things like have him lie to my boyfriend and bring him and if someone is your friend, that's not what a friend does.
You should put him in a situation where they're enabling that. Yeah.
Right. And putting him in the middle of it and expecting him to do it for me. And if he doesn't, then he's a bad friend.
That's tough.
Just so you know what, you're exactly right. That is my rock bottom. Now that's not what got me to quit, but it was like that was the worst.
Have you guys ever talked about this before in your friendship? What rock bottom was? Because it sounds like you just helped her find what it was.
No,
accidentally on a podcast.
I think what's interesting about us is when we talked about this in the car is like we just kind of woke up one day, and I know certain things like played into it, but I stopped my problem because I was just tired of the judgment, to be completely honest.
So you quit cold turkey?
Yes, I was doing harder drugs. So
what was your drug of choice, Jake?
Meth.
Okay.
So you
were hard.
Yeah. So like I said, I was never a big drinker. I was more, and I always thought I didn't really have too much of a problem because in the sense of, I always said I could control it because I really genuinely could go a month or 2 or 3 without doing it.
It is the weirdest thing.
I can't. I did crack and I drank.
Really?
And I couldn't go a day without it.
And I think a lot of it had to do with my job, and probably I had to be very careful with that. I feel like for like, you know how it is. And I understand why people don't want to come down and continue to do it so they don't have to feel like that. But I would do it. I would disappear for 3 or 4 days. I would scare her. I would scare my family. I mean, my family was pretty, well,
we were adults, so it wasn't like your mom's calling you every day.
Yeah, it's not like you're in 8th grade.
Right. But like me and her have such that relationship that like
that's what it is.
I can't disappear. Like,
I will find you kind of thing.
And so, and I got to a point where I was embarrassed of hiding it and coming up with excuses. And then I got to a point where I was like, it. I am just gonna say, hey, I'm going to do meth. I'm gonna be gone for 3 or 4 days. I'll tell you where I'm at. I'll check in. It got to the point where we were like, and she
taking again. It's the same taking up for. Hey, this is where I'm gonna be if anyone calls you. And at least in my head, I was like, oh, I know where he is.
Yeah.
So
you're accountability partners too.
Yeah.
Yes.
In your addiction and then after your addiction.
And then yeah.
So what's it been like? How long have you been sober now?
I'll be 4 years on January 25th.
Now, did you do this by going to treatment?
No.
Did it cold turkey too?
Mm-hmm. He said one day, I had given myself alcohol poisoning the night before. I'd gone out, drank probably 4 or 5 bottles of wine, 3 champagnes, and about 15 schnapps shots. So gross. And woke up the next morning in a hotel room with a guy I really didn't know or like. And I mean, we hadn't even done, you know what I mean? Like, I just woke up like, what the f- is going on here? Who am I? Where am I? And like, I feel like I was still drunk and texted him. And I was like, this is my 800th time saying, I think I'm going to quit drinking. And he's like, well, yeah, like, please, would you kindly?
Because at this point, she just would say such hurtful and hateful things because
I was just drunk.
Yeah.
And I was an angry drunk.
Yeah. And you're going to hurt the person you're closest to.
Yes.
Right. Like, so I knew he would never leave.
Right. Yeah, of course.
We've had people on the show that the spouse, you're not the spouse in the situation, but they take the brunt of it.
For sure. Yeah.
And they get forgotten about.
Yeah.
Once the person finds recovery. And so that's why I was asking, like, how did you do it?
Yeah. I just woke up and thought, I cannot do this anymore. And when he was like, yeah, no, like, it's really not funny. Like, you're really awful. You're a dumb. You're f***ing rude. You're hateful. You throw things. You tell me stuff that I don't even believe is true. And it was like, oh, okay. I do love you. I don't want to make you feel that way. And I guess that time maybe I just felt so bad that it sunk in and was like, okay, well, this is my choice.
Yeah.
And no one else is telling me to do it. I came to you and said I want to quit. No one was going, hey, maybe you should put it down. Because I was so oppositional. I have a hard time if someone tells me to do something. My initial reaction is like, no, even if it's the right thing.
Did y'all get clean, sober at the same time and then walk through it together as friends?
No, you got sober before me.
About a year,
yeah. And I was so, because it's like the 800th time I'm not going to drink anymore. And like, you didn't. You did it.
Yeah, I actually stuck by it. I mean,
it was so weird. We're so strong-minded like that. It's so weird. But like, no, she did. And never picked it up again. And about a year later, it was during the holidays. And I had the opportunity to meet up with one of the guys I always, did the meth with. And I wanted to do it. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know why. I just was like, it's November. It's the holidays. I really don't feel like, feeling like during the holidays. And she was somewhere. I can't remember where she was, but she wasn't available. I texted her and my brother, and thank God my brother was actually home that night because he lives in Dallas. And I said, "Are you free?"
Oh, that's right.
I said, "Are you free?" And he said yes. And I said, "I need to come over now, or I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna do meth."
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm done. I don't want to be done, but I'm just tired of like the lies and the judgment. Really, it was just more of the embarrassment for me because like I said, I could go months without it. But I crave it so strongly, even still,
Somebody compared it to, maybe you, I don't know. It was somebody I saw on TikTok. They said, if you really want to feel what raw, real addiction feels like, go put your cell phone down for like 3 days and don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
You know how hard that would be for somebody right now?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't even,
Could you put your phone down?
No.
For 3 days?
Oh my God, absolutely not. I'm addicted to TikTok.
But so you guys are like an anomaly though. I mean, if you quit cold turkey without any help, that's like trying to find the perfect gym. People go to all these different gyms and work out and they're like, oh, this one isn't good for me. This one, this one isn't good. But then they find the one that works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to gyms. I'm using that as an analogy. I'm just saying that, for you guys to do that, what do you do to stay sober?
That's a good question. Actually, I do yoga.
Yes.
I honestly
you
sit
put your
and
all in
think
yoga.
about how I was and how it's the embarrassment, like he said. It's just
it truly is the embarrassment.
So mortifying walking, like realizing
we're grown
that
adults. We don't like.
Yeah, realizing you walked around drunk as in public, any and everywhere, and thought no one knew.
Yeah,
I thought no one could tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mortifying.
Come to the tennis
mortifying
salon.
Now.
We'll hang out with you and get drunk.
Being up for 3 or 4 days in a row and then going to Thanksgiving.
What sucks is seeing the sun come up.
Yep.
On that stuff like that.
No, there's no greater feeling of despair than doing, getting drunk, doing blow all night, and then it's 7:00 in the morning.
I know.
You're just like, oh.
There was one Thanksgiving.
The day has to end.
Yeah. There was one Thanksgiving a few years ago. I went to my Grammys and I had been up for 4 days. Of course, I'm not hungry. I look cracked out. And of course, everybody was like, what is going on with you? And I'm just like, oh, no, I'm just, not that hungry. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, come on. Yeah. I mean, but, only certain people in my family, knew, no, because, like I said, I never thought I was, wasn't doing it every day. It wasn't controlling my life. But at the same time, I don't know how to explain that. Of course, I was an addict. Of course, I am an addict. Yeah. Yes, it was controlling my thoughts. It's because even if I didn't touch it for 2 or 3 months, oh my gosh, I was still thinking about it every day.
Oh yeah.
Even the temptation, fighting yourself. Am I going to do it? Am I not? It's
when you do it on your own, do you ever worry about a relapse?
No, I know that I can't. It is the weirdest thing. It was like once I figured out that alcohol was the only thing actually ruining or was the only sore spot, it was like, oh, duh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And there's no bone in my body that thinks she'll ever relapse again. No. Ever.
That's good.
Yeah. I know you
won't. It's so,
Is your bond strong enough that if he called you or you called him and said, I'm really thinking about it. I had a bad day.
Absolutely. And
you would come running and you would go running.
Oh, 100%, no matter where.
It would be like, if I called Jake and said, I think I'm going to drink.
You're FaceTiming me until I get there.
No, ma'am, we don't do that anymore.
But, I mean, of course, there's been times, but heck, she had her she had her wedding in Vegas.
Yeah.
What sober queen has a wedding in Vegas?
Yeah.
And doesn't drink.
Right, but she just, it's great. She has no struggle. She wanted everybody else to have fun.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. So it's just,
so did you have you're in Vegas. Everybody else was drinking.
Yeah, everybody else was drinking.
My wife asked me, she's not like a big drinker, but, she has friends that were drinking and she would have wine and stuff like that. And she's like, does this bother you? And it finally came to a point where I said, look, you aren't the one that had the problem or has the problem. It's me. I mean, so don't change who you are to satisfy me. You be you and I'll be me.
But I do also, on the opposite side, flip side, I do understand how some people can have a problem being around it, which does suck, because I'm sure you've got to really find it. Like, you can't make somebody not do them.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that's a tough road to navigate for some people.
I guess when it comes to addiction and stuff like that, people just feel like they have to guard you so much.
Yes. Like you're a baby or something.
Yeah. It's like an ongoing funeral or a loss or something.
Yeah. You're like, it's like, I
gotta tiptoe around this, you know?
Or skirt around. It's like, no, I've actually been ruining all of your lives for the last 15 years.
Like, so it's okay. I know.
Please be honest. Like, that's my thing, is like, in my addiction, I was brutally, hatefully honest. And so I'm not asking for that back, but it's like, hey, you can tell me what I did. Like, you cannot, I mean, not you can't hurt my feelings, but, and not like I deserve to hear it, but I don't know how to say this. Like, you are allowed to express that to me.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I don't ever want anyone to, like you said, like tiptoe or not drink around me because they want to or whatever. So. Yeah.
Because, you know, the name of the podcast is Recovery Vow. A lot of times people think, well, that's just about marriages because I like talking to people that are married. But it's a commitment. If you look at the word vow, it's a commitment you make to yourself. So you guys made a commitment to, yourself individually, that I just don't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah, I cannot.
So I think that's very commendable that you've done that and stayed sober.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a question for you because I wrote this down. I couldn't find the video. So tell me, how did you go viral on a cruise? Okay, so
we were on a cruise, my family, my mom, my grandparents, and my aunt and her family. My grandparents are older. They were like 80 at the time. My grandma's since passed away, but she was kind of in the middle of a struggle with dementia. Like it hadn't just started. So it was still kind of new, but we were working through it. And then we were on a cruise. And if you've never been on a cruise, the rooms are tiny. I'm with my mom. I was about 1.5 years sober. So it was really, really fresh. I mean, even now, 4 years in, I still feel like everything is so new still.
Yeah. Wait till you get the 5-year mark. It's like a whole different
Really?
Like you get to go to college or something after that. Yeah.
You got the bachelor's in sobriety. Mark. I don't know what it is, but there's something about that 5-year mark.
It feels really good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we were on this cruise, and my grandma was just having a hard time navigating space and what to do. And in my family, we are all a lot of the same personality. We all have big personalities. Like yes. And it is.
What cruise line were you on?
Carnival.
Yeah. You fit in perfect.
Yeah, exactly. We're just a bunch of psychos just running around rampant. Yes. My mom is like the craziest of us all. And she has no addiction issues, but she is just a complete nut bar. She's a great time. Never met a stranger, that kind of person. And so we were just trying to navigate how to care for my grandma on this cruise when she's kind of losing her mind. She was becoming nonverbal. And I was just like, my sisters weren't there. It was just me and my mom. And
this is your mom's mom?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And sometimes my mom and I are so much alike that we clash. We're like a mirror to each other. And so everything she does that makes me crazy is what I would like to change in myself, and everything I do.
It's funny how a lot of things are generational.
Yeah, we're total mirrors to each other. It's really funny. And so even knowing that, we still have a hard time communicating. But I was just at my wit's end, and I was like, I'm about to get a drink. And it wasn't like because I was bored. It wasn't because I had nothing else to do. It was because I was stressed the out. And I had never felt like that in sobriety. Like, I've got to have a drink to like calm my nerves. Yeah. That was a completely new feeling in sobriety. And it was horrifying because it wasn't a choice, I guess, in my head.
Do you take anything for nerves? Like medication? Okay. A lot of addicts do.
Yeah, I'm sure we've talked about mood stabilizers many a time. I thought I was bipolar in my addiction.
Really?
Like,
that's how bad it was. And then stop drinking. It's like, you just were
drunk.
Drunk, you were just drunk. And so I made a video on TikTok just saying like, hey, I am about to lose my can someone please tell me what to do? I felt really awful that I had felt like drinking for calming the nerves. I was like, what the is this? I felt so guilty. I hated that feeling. So I was just like, what do I do? And I was crying, which I am really not like a huge crier in my day-to-day. I'm not
and
real
the
emotional.
Fact that you were filming and crying.
Yeah.
Was
nothing
really
more cringe in my opinion than that. And so to be the one doing it, I was like, oh, I am so fucking desperate right now. I don't even care.
What made you just be vulnerable enough to put it on TikTok?
I think just not knowing where to go. Yeah. And a big part of me getting sober was seeing people in sobriety on TikTok. I found a ton of like really funny people who were just, like you said, like raw and honest. And it wasn't like, here's what I did to get sober and let me give you my 5 tips.
Here's helping hands. 999.
Yeah. I'm
don't
not
drink.
like that. Yeah, exactly. And so it was more so people just like sharing their experience as opposed to giving advice that I kind of was like, oh, I can do that too. And these people are funny and they still have their like, you know, they didn't have to like go and find God and like put all of themselves into that to find recovery. They could still be themselves in recovery. I think that's what I was scared of losing and quitting drinking was like, oh, I won't be funny anymore. I won't be like willing to just do whatever. I had no business doing any of that stuff anyway. You know. So
now, are you a believer? Like when you say you didn't have to go there, some
like
people didn't go find God.
Yeah. You know, I'm spiritual. I am like a yoga person, so I know that there's something bigger than us out here.
Right.
So yeah, I would say I'm like not necessarily religious. Right. Yeah. Like there's definitely a higher power. What I call it the universe or God. I'm not afraid of that either. So
good.
Yeah, definitely
no, I'm not trying to push
bigger.
anything on you or anything like that, but just making sure that, you know, when I did go a 12-step program and they said you need to find a higher power. It can be a doorknob. It can be a wall. It could, you know, I'm just looking around the room, but it had to be God. As God as I understand him, you know, so that I can
God
have
as I
that
understand
relationship.
him.
I like
that.
Yeah.
And I've, you know, was listening to another podcast and they talk about how God is just an absence of ego, which is love. And so, yeah, I can get down with that. Like, of course, sounds great. Yeah, I would love that.
So you're crying on a ship.
Yep, crying on a ship.
Crying in the club,
crying in the club, crying on a ship to a camera and nobody else. And,
what did you hope to get from that? Like if somebody would have just reached out and said, hey, I'm here, you can talk to me?
Yeah, just kind of like, hey, but you don't do that anymore. So this is your reminder, like, take a second. Like maybe take a few breaths or just like.
Were you on a live, like where people could talk to you?
No, I just recorded a video, but I didn't have to re-record. I was just a one take. So
you weren't like spraying peppermint in your eyes to make yourself cry again. Like.
Wait, let me try that one again. Yeah, no, nothing like that. So I think I was just kind of like desperate for someone to hear it. I don't even know that I cared to have feedback, but I just wanted someone to know, someone who understood to know that I felt that way. And my mom's not in recovery. No one in my family is in recovery. No one, you don't understand it on a level when you are in recovery. And so just putting it out there into like the ethos and hoping that someone would give something back. And they did. It went viral.
Tell me what viral means. Like,
oh, well, exactly, right? What does that even mean? So within like a day of posting, and I think it had 4 million views.
What?
And like, yeah.
Damn.
And I someone who was on the cruise ship, also cruising, came up to me and said, did you just post a TikTok crying about being sober? And I was like, oh, what the? Yeah, weirdo creeper. But also like, yeah, that's
what you wanted from it though. Like you wanted somebody to recognize.
And you know what? She told me about how her sister has a drink. Yep, I agree. I completely agree. Like that to have a tangible thing in addition to this like whole virtual world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was crazy. It got so many views so quickly that I was like, holy. And then it kind of gave me a purpose on the rest of the trip was to like update people and talk with people who had other issues about it while I was on it. So that video completely changed my life. Changed
and how long
everything.
that was? You said a year and a half in?
Yeah, a year and a half into my sobriety. It's like 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah. So what is it like for you? You met your husband in recovery. How did you guys meet?
Actually, we met on Hinge. We had
seems like a lot of people are doing that.
Dating app. I was 30, so
what's Hinge? Is that where the girl has to like?
No, I think it's just a regular one where you can both swipe
right.
left, swipe right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we did have a mutual friend, so I kind of was like, you know, we weren't complete strangers, but yeah, met on Hinge, and started dating, and just immediately when we started dating, it was.
Did you tell him about the whole recovery thing on day one, or did you wait?
Oh yes, from the second we started talking, I think even on my profile I put like I'm sober or something like that. Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. Have never been ashamed of it. I think it is like kind of a flex sometimes.
Yeah,
so we've
that's
taken
one
it
of those
as
things
that.
that like most time you're gonna go on a date, more than likely to dinner or a bar, and it's casual
drinks,
to get a drink, and so
Yeah.
just being straightforward, like you can drink,
Yeah.
I don't drink, so if that's what you're wanting,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just putting it out there, like, don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Because I
Right.
know when I was drinking, if someone told me they didn't drink,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, oh, I would never speak to you. I would never hang out with you. I wouldn't even be friends with you. We have nothing in common.
So was he the first guy you dated in recovery?
Seriously,
Yeah.
I had like other little fling, little fling here and there, but nothing that actually mattered. But yeah, I let him know straight up, like, hey, I don't drink. And I think he might have known before because his friend, who I also knew, told him that I was sober.
Yeah. And he respects that.
Yeah. He's
how does
not a
that
drinker.
work with you guys?
Oh, he's not a drinker. He works really hard. He is like actually so.
Oh, he's such a gem.
Truly.
She got so lucky.
Yeah, I mean,
So Hinge is where you meet people,
yes,
and you meet the good people.
Yeah, and I mean, just a mentally stable person. I've never met one until like, an actual mental. You know what I mean? Like,
he is
comes from a
amazing.
great family, but also is just very steady and smooth. He's like a calm lake in the morning. It is so nice to be around. I've
good.
never met anyone like
That's
that.
good.
Yeah,
So-
and just totally understanding.
Y'all definitely balance each other out as well too, and they work really well together.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, relationships are important, especially for you guys are really young. And so for younger people that are going to listen to this podcast, they need to know that recovery is possible with different beliefs,
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
with
yes.
different backgrounds, with different kinds of personalities. And you don't have to go all the way to rock bottom. You can hit rock bottom.
Right.
You could be on a cruise ship. You can do whatever, but then you can still find a relationship, right?
Yeah,
And-
absolutely. And I couldn't have found my relationship unless I had been sober.
Yeah.
I could never be a partner to Cameron if I hadn't got sober.
Oh, that's my son's name.
Aw.
It's a good man,
No,
I'm sure.
yeah. Cameron.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just, I could have never met him, could have never gone on a date with him because of who he is and who he was, that just wouldn't have fit
Wouldn't
into
work.
his life.
Yeah.
So,
How do you plan on using your influence? You're an influencer now, right? I would consider you an influencer on
oh, thank
TikTok.
you.
I mean, because everything that you
Say
put
it again,
out
can we
there,
clip that?
and I guess, is that your personal and your recovery one is all together, right?
Yeah, on TikTok, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Instagram, I mostly just post personal stuff, but I am loud about my sobriety everywhere. So,
Okay.
It's so funny. I have no idea what she posts.
yeah, he won't even watch my videos.
No.
It's so cringe.
You're just YouTuber, right?
Yeah, I just watch YouTube. Yeah,
Okay.
But yeah, I don't since I'm not on any platform. I know everything, and so I just find it. And I love her to death, but it's cringy as. I want to watch it.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
It's hard to put yourself out there.
Yeah,
and
well,
to
he
watch
lived it.
And I
So it's
lived
like,
it.
you know
I
what?
don't need to.
Yeah.
Let's not rehash this right now, damn
Yeah.
it.
But no, I'm so proud of her. That's so cool that you say that. Like hearing it from
I mean,
somebody.
really, how are you going to use that platform to help other, let's just say women? How can
Yeah.
you use your influence that you have and the change in your life to reach other people?
So I think TikTok's mostly where I would, like you said, if it shuts down, I will always be loud about my sobriety, like in speaking with regular people. I teach yoga, which is like my kind of like
Outlet.
safe space. Yeah, my
Yes,
outlet.
safe
Thank you.
space.
That's much better. No, I hate safe space. I hate that. I hate therapy talk. So you know what I mean? Like, okay. And I do love therapy, but the therapy talk conversationally, it drives me crazy when people do that.
Yeah.
But like yoga really is my kind of like my coming to, my connection to a higher power. It's the connection of your body to your mind and the breath to the body. And to me, that is so important to come back to when I'm like freaking out or whatever, to just kind of like come back to the self. And then, with the breath, just kind of slowing down everything. And in that, you kind of remember that there is a higher power, that God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, because it's all the same, the love or whatever, is there. And that is like the solid spot that's never moving. So in yoga, I do share a lot of my sobriety in that. And
Do you? Like a yoga class that you can teach?
Yeah. So I teach a yoga class. And have you ever been to yoga, or have you ever done it?
Yeah, I've done it. I'm not good at it. I'm tall. And so this is a lot to tying a knot.
Well, that is so funny because you actually can't be bad at yoga.
Yeah,
that's
you
the
can.
whole. Well,
And then I tried the hot yoga one time where they turned the heat up like
that.
1,000,000 degrees and tried to do it. Yeah, I was nope.
Not the thing.
Not
Okay,
the
I
cup
totally
of tea.
understand. But like for me in my recovery, yoga was like which again, I'm about to do some therapy talk. I'm real cheesy, but yoga is like a
good.
work in, not a work out. So it's not actually about like the physical asanas or postures. It's you're actually not even doing yoga unless you're connecting the breath to the body, and you don't even have to be moving for that.
Yeah.
So it's much more of like a
lot of focus
like
and
meditation,
concentration.
prayer, if you want to, you know what I mean? They're all the same things. So it's just taking the time to like go within yourself, recognize the power outside of you that you can actually use inside of you. It's all just a big, beautiful circle. So, but yeah, through yoga, I love talking about sobriety. I love connecting with specifically women that way. And then I volunteer at Safe Haven Women's Center, which is in Fort Worth and Arlington. Yeah, my mom is like my mom is like
Oh my gosh,
the queen of volunteers.
Yes.
She's like,
What does that do for you? That fills your bucket?
oh yeah, big time. It is.
Because you really like the girls.
I know,
there.
I
She
really
really
do.
does connect with those girls there.
It's so they just
they connect. The more I think. I'm sorry. I don't
No,
mean
go
to-
ahead, go
No,
ahead.
you're
The more important thing is they connect to her,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which is
Because
I mean,
they just need to see like
yeah, and
you. They need to see
Right.
you.
Yes.
And being in a women's shelter, you know, I haven't ever had to be in that position, but I just can't imagine how that feels to have lost everything. And Safe Haven is such an incredible organization because they will actually come pick you up. They will come take you in. It's almost like you're in witness protection.
They have children too, probably.
Yep, they will take in your children, and it is just they're inclusive. They're just incredible. They give you housing, care, school, transportation to work.
That's
and
awesome.
they have these like parameters that you have to follow, which as we know in recovery is so important to have like standards to hold yourself to. And so I think me like opening up about being in recovery to these women, which, you know, when you're in a domestic abuse type relationship, there's so much substance abuse tied to that.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's generational, but then it's just it's something they're going to have to deal with.
Yes. And so I think me coming to them and saying like, hey, this is where I'm coming from. Like I've had a rock bottom too. Like, and I can't imagine how it feels to be in a place like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the, not embarrassment or anything, but just the loss of self and security. It kind of mimics how you feel when you're going through recovery. It's just, you're like, who am I? What am I doing?
Yep.
Where do I belong?
Yep.
And so I think making that connection with women like that it just draws us together and kind of helps us. It takes down the walls of like, oh, who is this coming to teach me yoga at the women's center?
so
Really?
it's not just like it's just like a volunteer to make, she's not just coming in to volunteer to make herself look good.
Yoga,
like
girls.
she's
It's like,
a yoga and
yeah.
she can actually, relate to these women, which is really special.
And that's a huge thing. People need to know they can connect.
Yeah.
Because they're going to view you as being at a level higher than them.
Right.
And,
right.
and they don't, and they're
so
going to be
not
so
true.
scared, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Because
they don't think they can, like, relate
if there's no
to
common
you,
ground,
And
it's
you need
where
to
do you
show
go?
them. You need
Yeah.
to show them the ground is level
for sure.
Yes.
for where you're coming from.
Yeah. We're all
Absolutely.
just
How
trying to make
important
it.
how important is marriage to you in your recovery?
Oh, everything. I mean, now that I am married, it's so funny. Like when you get engaged or when you're seriously dating someone, I'm 32. So my husband and I lived together for a year before we got engaged. And you think like, oh, this is what it is. And then you make a commitment in front of God, in front of your family and your friends and the state of Las Vegas or whoever. But like making that commitment verbally and, connecting with someone, eye contact and holding hands and like the physical union of it and the verbal and the spiritual, it's like, oh, we're in a different completely different ballgame now. This is something totally different than dating. And actually my husband and I were talking about this yesterday, recovery vow. Recovery is a vow. And, I said to him, if I were to drink again, that would be the same thing as breaking a marital vow. That would be the same thing as cheating on you. It would be the same thing as whatever else worse thing you can do than, breaking your partner's trust, like that to me is on the same exact level.
You're right.
If I relapse, there's no difference than me going and having sex with someone else, which is just hurts my whole entire body to even think about doing something like that.
That'll keep you sober too if you think through what it's going to look like. What's tomorrow morning look like when you have to live with that?
Think through. I mean, because obviously people relapse all the time and then pick back up and do great
and
again.
that's part of recovery, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We're not
And you don't want
shaming
to plan
anybody
out
just because
you don't want
neither-
to plan out your relapse or anything.
No,
like
of course. And
that.
just because neither one of us have had a relapse doesn't mean we're better than anybody
Right,
else.
yeah.
But yeah, to really sit and think through, because it's really hard when you're in that mindset of wanting to relapse. But if you can just take that sliver of, your peace and self and just really think it through. Do I want to feel like? Do I want to?
What will this do? And there's another person.
Yep.
It's not just what will happen to me. It's like, what is that going to do to him who goes to work every day, doesn't complain, provides, loves, and is kind and nice.
Sounds like he's a really good man.
Oh my God.
Y'all.
I would marry him if I could.
Yes, exactly. He is
fantastic.
a good person. I've never met anyone like him.
Yes.
That's great.
Never.
I think you know that you have a platform, you have a reach, you've got a strong marriage, and you have an opportunity to share that with younger couples, to know that they can just take the next step in their relationship. I, 45, I met my wife 12 years ago at church, and
so 2 years after your recovery.
Yeah, she gave me my 3-year chip.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, and so
Aww.
I kind of not stalked her, but was just falling for her just from sitting close to her.
Right.
And it was important for me to just see what a good, healthy relationship was all about. But when we went out on our first date, this was when Facebook was popular. There was no other, Instagram wasn't around. And so I put us in relationship status overnight.
Literally, that's the kind of crazy. Yeah.
So that's what I'm on. That's crazy, isn't it? She broke up with me. But I get so confused because there's a time where you meet, then you're talking to this person, and then you go into where you're dating, then you're exclusive, and then you get engaged, and then you get married. All this that happens right there is confusing for a lot of people. They lose themselves. They just don't know what to do. And I think it's important that you guys said you met, you started dating, and then you got married. And I don't know what it looked like in between there, but some people just get hung up there. And I think that hearing from you that, I'm in sobriety, I met a good man in sobriety. I teach yoga in sobriety, and life is great in sobriety. People need to hear that.
Yeah,
and
I think we have just as much fun. I think we have more fun.
Yeah.
I don't think anything has changed. I mean, hold on, a lot has changed, but
but between us, everything has changed,
but oh my gosh,
we have changed.
We're
but
stronger.
The same.
Yeah, we're the same.
Better friendship.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and we can still go out and have just as much fun, if not more fun, without having to drink.
I think that's awesome. I'm glad you guys are friends, and I want you to stay friends and support each other. And
absolutely.
I really am so glad that you guys came by the Recovery Vow podcast. And like you said, vow is a commitment you make to yourself before you can make it to another person.
So that's so true.
Absolutely. What I would love to do is give you a gift to take back home to Cameron.
I love that. Thank you.
This is my little sales pitch from a book.
We love it.
But yeah, I'd love for you guys just to here's why. Your young 30s, you met, and I would love just to hear your feedback. So each chapter, you'll recognize each chapter from just, being in recovery and how practical it is. But at the end of each chapter, there's space for you to answer questions. It's written like a workbook.
And
then for him to answer questions, and then for you guys to do it together.
I think that would be really good for Cameron to read that.
Need. Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
And I would really love feedback from Cameron.
Yes, of course. We'd
love
that.
Because you don't see it a whole lot where the guy's a supporting spouse. And so I'd love to capitalize on that and just share.
That's a good point.
I think Cameron would
love that. Thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But Jake, thank you for coming by too and
hanging out.
Thank you for
having me. I would do anything to support her.
Yeah, she told me you were coming. I'm like, well, bring it on.
Of course.
So he's known me a lot longer and maybe through addiction. So.
But I'm proud of you both. I'm very proud of you both. Thank you for coming and sharing some of your story with us.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good one. Thanks for watching and listening to the Recovery Vow podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow along on all of our social media platforms. A huge shout out to all of our sponsors. You can find a list of them in the show notes below or on the screen you're watching on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Today's episode is brought to you by Paradise Turf, Sally Kohler Photography, Atlas Health and Wellness, Dr. Rhonda Milner, Kendra Neal's Studio, Augusta Dream Center, Newsom Electric, New Spring Church, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Candace Riddle Realty, Goldmec, Norval Fixture and Equipment, S&S Supplies, Belinda Thompson, Rhett Walker, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Coleman Construction, Bagwell Insurance, Tree Guys with Ties, Vera Walden, Kendrick Paint and Body, Roof Savers, Game Changer, City of Refuge, Augusta Magazine, Burrow Elijah Attorney at Law. And a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Vow Podcast.